Okay, so I think we will begin with a webinar. Hello guys, so welcome to today's Tech and Talent T-Talk series on the topic Big Data and AI with AI4BD and Avantgarde Labs. As you may know, Tech and Talent T-Talk is a webinar series focusing on different technological trends and the successful application in various industries in Saxony. In our webinars, we also try to cover the skill set which is required by the current and the future workforce to stay abreast with such technologies. The series is organized by intap along with its two knowledge partners, Smart System Hub and High-Tech Startbahn. My name is Swati and I will be your host for this evening. I work at intap, which connects international and German students, graduates and researchers with the regional companies in Dresden and in Saxony. I will be moderating this talk along with Smart System Hub, which is represented by the very talented and beautiful Julia. Julia, if you could just wave, okay. To give you a bit brief on our knowledge partners, Smart System Hub is an IoT hub based in Dresden and is part of the Digital Hub initiative and one of 12 competence centers of technology in Germany. With over 450 partners in the network, it is Europe's largest IoT hub. Our second knowledge partner, High-Tech Startbahn, is the leading expert in terms of requirements of young and high-tech companies on their path to success. For over 10 years, it has supported the tech founders with a lot of passion and ambition to master their venture journey. Now, before we move on to the topic, let me also introduce our speakers or experts to you. Our first expert is Dr. Martin Voigt, who is the Managing Director of AI4BD Deutschland GmbH. Post finishing his PhD from TU Dresden, Martin worked as a researcher, a project manager in the field of web engineering, semantic technologies, and information visualization. In 2004, he joined AI4BD to lead its research and development strategy and all other related activities. 1 year later, he became the MD of AI4BD Deutschland GmbH. Along with his team, Martin works in technology field, machine learning, software, and web engineering, as well as knowledge graph. Before I request Martin to briefly pitch his companies, I have one quick question for you. Can I ask my colleague Benedict to share this question? Okay, it's already there on the screen. So could you please let us know what is the full form of AI4BD? Do you know the full form of AI4BD? Is it artificial intelligence for business development, artificial intelligence for big deal, or artificial intelligence for big data? Okay, so probably we have got most of the votes, 70% vote as of now. So the answer is, yeah, most of you guys know artificial intelligence is for big data. And now I will request my first speaker, Martin, to give a pitch about his company. Martin, over to you.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, AI4BD in a nutshell, yeah, we are AI product company, and our vision is that we develop AI-based products in the enterprise field, which change the way we work. And thereby we focus especially on small and mid-sized enterprises, which could not really afford to implement AI, since it's quite, yeah, you have a lot of obstacles. So we have partners like Silicon Saxony, intap, Energy Saxony, BMV. But also in Dresden, for example, we work closely together with Cloud and Heat for our hosting. Our company is a Swiss-German company, so it's headquartered in Zurich, Switzerland, and our biggest office is in Dresden, where about 45 people of the 60 people are working. We are quite international, and yeah, we are doing a lot of research, and that's why we try to keep always state of the art.
Interesting. I mean, we know that we are pretty international and you're always open to having international employees, because probably we have also tried connecting you with many talents through our intap network platform. Okay, so thank you, Martin, for that insightful information about AI4BD. I now move on to my second speaker, Thorsten Hartmann, who is the founder and managing director of Avantgarde Labs, a Dresden-based specialist in custom software engineering, scalable data management, and artificial intelligence. His academic background is in economics, mathematical statistics, and philosophy. Philosophy, interesting. Torsten has gained many practical experiences in the application of machine learning, natural language processing, and knowledge technologies in the last 10 years. He currently serves as a board member in the Special Interest Group for Artificial Intelligence of Bitkom, which is also Europe's largest IT industry association. Before I request Torsten to make a brief introduction on his company, I have another question for you, and this could be a little tricky one. Let us know how much you know about AI this time. The term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy, a math professor at Dartmouth. Which year was it? Okay, some of the people were pretty prompt in marking 1955. Okay, 1965, we have many people voting for. We'll wait for a couple of seconds to have more votes gathered. So there seems to be a tie between 1955 and 1965. Okay, people are still voting. Okay, so the result is people voted, okay, so it's a tie. People voted for both 1955 and 1965. However, the right answer is 1955. It may not look natural because AI has been so prominent in the last couple of years that we think it's a very recent technology, but it's actually a very old technology. And probably so is big data, or maybe data, which we can find out from our next speaker, Torsten. But before we move on to the tech part of the discussion, I will request Torsten to share a couple of information about his company.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you for the introduction and for the invitation today. Yeah, some words about our company. You see some photos here. We are a quite young company. And what we do is we develop customized software systems. And we started in 2007 with artificial intelligence. So our first projects were all about machine learning in marketing and in risk management. But then we saw that if you want to create AI solutions, you always need more. You need data engineering, you need data management, scalable data management solutions, and of course you need interfaces, graphical user interfaces, and so on. So AI is very often only a small part of smart systems, and that's why we, our company now is a full-fledged software development company where AI always plays a role, or not always, but in many projects. Yeah, so what we do, so we are 45 software engineers, architects and data scientists, analysts. We sit here in Dresden. Our customers are mainly based in southern Germany. And so our skills focus on microservices, integration of services, and orchestration of services. As I said, scalable data management, cloud, DevOps, and of course, machine learning and natural language processing.
Okay, thank you so much, Torsten, for that quick introduction on Avantgarde Labs. Okay, so moving on to the next part of the session, we will continue introducing our speaker because we have one more speaker left with us, which is Marcus Reich. Marcus works in the capacity of Senior Consultant Technology and Cloud at Smart System Hub. He is responsible for topics cloud computing, machine learning and AI, and 5G campus network. He can draw on his many years of experience in information technology, software development, and customer service with a focus on digitization and innovation software solutions. I would once again like to thank all of the panelists, all of the speakers and experts who have joined us for our discussion today. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much to the audience who have joined us today on this discussion. But before we move on with the tech part of the discussion, I will share with you certain points. The discussion will be broken into two parts. The tech part will be moderated by Julia, and the skill part will be moderated by me. After the tech part finishes, we will take the questions from you directly. So you can write those questions in the question and answer section below on your screen. I would also request you to keep your questions very short and brief and related to the tech part, because all your skill related questions or job in the AI and ML field can be later on asked after the skill part has been covered by us. So do not ask all the questions after the first session is over, because we will also take up most of the questions after the second part. So I will now request Julia to take over and proceed with the tech part of the session.
Yeah, also a warm welcome from my side, and thank you, Swati, for the nice introduction. Yeah, let's start with the tech part. As you might all know, data is an increasingly important currency in business. Entire business models are based on collecting and analyzing data, and not only when it comes to data giants like Facebook or Google, we stumble across the buzzwords big data and AI. Also in the industrial context, they become increasingly important. And I don't know about you, we have the feeling that although the term AI is quite old, as we just learned, and we all talk about big data and AI, yet only very few know what the terms actually mean. So before we get into the potential of the technologies as well as the applications that are already possible today, we should, I think, clarify this. So Marcus, maybe you can shed some light and explain to us what is behind these terminologies.
Thank you very much, Swati and Julia, for the nice introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, Julia, you asked about the definition of big data and AI, and I can say it's really hard to find a common definition for this one, because it's used in different contexts for business concepts in terms of marketing, or as one of the big challenges for the future. So it's many people have different views for these topics, but I will try to give some aspects. Starting with big data. On the one hand, of course, you have the size of data in megabytes, gigabytes, or terabytes. But in my opinion, it's not very meaningful. Imagine you have a sensor spectrography, for example, that measures data in real time. This may lead to megabytes every second, and really a huge amount of data when you have this machine running over the day. But yeah, it's all the same data. It's some kind of time series data, but it's yeah, very easy to understand. Just measured values, huge amount, but not very complex. In my opinion, another aspect should be also considered besides the pure amount of data. It's the diversity and structured nature of the data. So imagine the data that is collected in social networks or in big e-commerce applications, like characteristics of the person, like the age, the gender, the hair color, the items that the user bought yesterday, the last month, or the last year, the connected friends in the social networks, or the likes, the comments that were given by the user, or uploaded pictures or videos in YouTube or some other channels. All these data can be collected and belong to one person. And collecting all this data is a very easy part, but the challenge after this collection is to handle them, to analyze them, to give them a structure, and to draw some conclusions out of them. And this is a challenge where I would say we are dealing with big data, a huge amount, but also the task to structure them, to give them a meaning, and to draw a good picture from it. Second question, Julia, the artificial intelligence, it's also difficult to find a common definition. And for me, it's always a good picture if you try to compare it with the natural intelligence. How would you define the natural intelligence? I think natural intelligence is the way that human beings or animals make decisions based on their experience, on the past, the experience in the past. And you say that a person is highly intelligent when you find the best solution for the current situation. So this is a common definition, I think, for human natural intelligence. And now the idea is to transfer this decision process based on past experience, trying to find the best solution for the future, or make some forecasts for the future, trying to transfer this to machines, to computer programs, to algorithms is the big picture of artificial intelligence. And as you see, many aspects for human intelligence. Of course, I think we will see in the discussion today also the artificial intelligence has very much aspects to consider and very many different detailed levels where we can go in.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Earlier, I had already mentioned the big ones like Google, Amazon, and Facebook, which have large amounts of data at their disposal. And of course, also data that, after your explanation, deserve the term big data. But I'm wondering where else big data does occur today. Thorsten, maybe can you explain where large amount of data comes from and which industries normally work with it?
Yeah, so you also already mentioned the usual suspects, the big digital companies like Facebook, Google, Alibaba, and so on. But today, many much smaller companies work with big data, with large amounts of data, with high frequent data. And for instance, if you think of companies that have very high frequent transactions like stock exchanges or electronic markets, the data of their processes sum up to really large amounts. And also, as we already heard from Marcus, in industrial production, you have very often sensors along the production line. And depending on how high the frequency of the sensors is, you can really have a lot of data in industrial production environment. And also, of course, in 3D sensing. So if you have sensing operations, this is a bit like the sensor technology part, but of course also in if you gather a lot of video data. Video is very computing intensive, so these are examples where also small companies work with large amounts of data.
Okay, you were talking about video data. Before we talk about how data is processed and thus used, it would be great if you could very briefly explain which data types exist and which data currently also plays the biggest role, especially for AI applications or AI use.
Okay, sure. So we have maybe we have a slide for this. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Swati. So this is really helpful to ask the question, what actually goes into artificial intelligence and what artificial intelligence actually does. And you can think of AI as a pipeline of input, processing, and output. And intelligent algorithms do the processing. But now we ask the question, what do we actually put into the AI algorithm? And there we have some basic data types, and there are not many of them. And for instance, here we have in the upper left corner, we have so-called graph data, so network data. For instance, if you have a social network, you have these little bubbles and these connections between these bubbles that represent people and connections between people. But you also have graphs for instance, in financial networks. You have accounts and money flows through these account networks. Or in the telecommunication industry, you have telco networks. So this is one basic data structure that is very often used to model specific systems. In the upper right corner, we have something that we are all familiar with, time series. So you measure some characteristics of processes, like physical processes, for instance, or socio-economic processes along a time frame. And for instance, as I said, in industrial applications, if you have a lot of sensors along a production line, there you have a lot of sensor data. In the bottom left corner, you have text, and most of the data in many companies is still covered in texts. And in our email or in documents that we store on our notebooks, and it's with algorithms of computational linguistics, you can draw benefit or create value from text data. And finally, we have image data, be it still images or video data. And as you know, for instance, in autonomous driving, you really need intelligent algorithms that can detect and understand what kind of objects do we have in a scene, and how do they refer to each other in order to drive safely. And these are four of only a handful of basic data types. And now it's interesting to know that every data structure, every data type has a specific amount of of algorithms, of AI algorithms that can be used to analyze these kinds of data and to create value out of it.
Okay, maybe we can talk about these different data types later on, because your slide pretty much brings me to another question. We in our talk, had the two terms AI and big data together, and we consciously decided to link the two topics also for our talk. Maybe Martin, you can tell us where exactly are the interfaces between the two technologies.
I think there are several interfaces. So, and the first was already mentioned by Thorsten. So an AI or a machine learning algorithm or a model is only that intelligent than how intelligent the data is. So it likes to, or it strives to extract all the knowledge representations you have from the data. There are intrinsic patterns in it, and it tries to extract them as you need it for a special use case as defined. So it could be structuring data by clustering, classification, doing predictions on time series, and so on. And I think the term big is required for the term of data, since only if you have enough data, an AI model can generalize over a customer, over a domain, or even more. So you need a lot of data to learn. So for example, to learn from image representations, the model needs to understand how a photo is structured, for example, for classification between dogs and cats and so on. That's a simple one. So you have open source data sets of about 40 million and more images. And then if you want to say, okay, now I want to detect and understand handwriting, maybe you then only need 1 million images. So that because already you generalized on this data. Maybe another perspective of the term big data and the technology point of view is that the term was coined by technologies from Apache, like Hadoop, which is more or less going away, pathing away, or Apache Spark, which is also coined with the term data lakes, where you collect amounts, petabytes of data, which you can learn from afterwards. And there are now even more intelligent technologies where you maybe have not to collect everything in one big lake, but you can have federations over the data sets, like Google's BigQuery and so on. And here, reading the data, having technologies to process or pre-process, and then generating models out of it. Here's, I think, also a big overlap between the technologies.
Okay, and maybe we can stick a bit more to the knowledge you were talking about. When people talk about AI, the associations range from simple automation to a replacement of humans. Martin, what is AI actually capable of? And is it hard for SME to visualize the value it can bring to them?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the field is very, very broad, and especially in the marketing and so on, you read a lot of fancy stuff like autonomous driving, flying, robotics, more and more interfaces in the human-machine communication and so on, where you don't need any keyboard to input and so on. But there are also several other, I would say, boring enterprise topics I would distinguish. That means, for example, just extracting information from an invoice, which invoices happens every day in every enterprise, small to big. You have customer services which need to be supported because there are several thousands of customer requests per day. You have legal departments which have to check thousands of contracts per day. Or you have also topics for smart maintenance with buildings which have, or from production lines where you collect multiple millions of data sets per day. And there you need to identify some value of. And, so these are two topics I see. But especially, I think, for the companies, it's really, really hard to cope with it, because you need someone in the company, especially in the C-level, who understands the benefit you can gain from AI. So that means you need to somehow have an idea to follow, maybe not only the press, maybe also to speak with people who have knowledge about it. And here's, I see, really a problem, because there are a lot of examples, but many of the examples are mainly fit to big companies. So, and what we need, I think, to improve right now is that we have more real-world examples which are also understandable for smaller and mid-sized companies, like a company with 100 people, where it's really hard to hire maybe 20 data scientists and so on, because it's not their main field of work, like, for example, if they're on the production line and so on. So that's why our understanding is that to improve the AI capabilities, it's always that we need some kinds of products or software which abstracts from the AI level, which can also cope with less training data. So we speak about big data today, but many SMEs only have small data sets, or are not allowed to use data from their customers and so on. And they have also to abstract from hardware. And only if we can give them possibilities to abstract from everything and show a swift business value, I think then we can go and path the way more to have an AI-driven economics here in Saxony or in Germany.
Okay, I think this is actually a very important question to talk about the values and benefits for companies. Maybe Martin, but this question goes to all of you three. Can you maybe tell us something from your working life, some use cases for AI you are already dealing with or you're working on at the moment?
Thorsten, do you like maybe to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, for instance, what we currently do, and what I think that the most important use case is for us in the moment is product data management. And so big e-commerce companies have a lot of products, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions, if they have marketplaces. And so there are dozens of employees who take care for the data, who integrate this data in on a daily basis, and who have to match data and to map data and to make sure that this data will be correctly displayed in their web shops. This is a very repetitive task, and this is very costly, because you really large trading companies really need dozens of employees to do this. And this is also not a very creative task. These employees could really be used for creating high value content, like in marketing, storytelling, and so on, but not dealing with simple product data. And we automate in several projects this integration and classification of product data, for instance. And we have been doing this for many years. And now it's, well, even more companies contact us to automate these types of processes. But this is only one example of many.
Yeah, I really like to support this. And I think what we maybe should distinguish is that AI is really helpful if it's really from a technical point of view, if it's too complex to code anything. So that, for example, years ago, any recognition in documents or in speech was coded based on rules. You have a lot of rule-based systems. So you have this feature engineering, etc. And it is such a cumbersome task, which really doesn't take that much value, because you have continuously code and code and code, and have also a lot of domain experts. And the other point of view is really the business side. It's what Thorsten mentioned, that you have repetitive tasks. So always, if you think of, there's a lot of things my employees doing more and more again, then you should think about to make use of AI. And here's also the slide I shortly provided. For example, one of their customers, so from the medical domain, Uso, they receive about 5,000 of these faxes and email scans per day. And also they have an online shop since 2014. In the medical domain, paper is still the way to go. So now they have about 70 people just sitting every day to read this paper in the 4i principle and typing into the ERP system. And that are really cases where AI should support. Only if we support this, the people can do more intelligent things, but also the company can grow. And that's really something what we should support, as I would say, from an enterprise level.
Yeah, many aspects we all already mentioned, Thomas, Thorsten, and Martin, that we do not have. What we also see is that the companies do not have the AI experts, and we have to bring some interface level to reduce the complexity. And Thorsten also mentioned, when is it helpful to use AI? AI may be one tool when it's going to reduce stupid work or work that is has to be repeated very often. Then we can use AI, and this is also what we see. Our goal is always to reduce the hurdles for the companies for this big technology, for this buzzword AI, for the risks maybe, or the missing competence that the companies have. And this is one goal that we have as a smart systems hub, to integrate different players, all the network that we have here in Dresden, here in Saxony, to provide the right know-how, the right experts, and also the right technical setup. And this is one example where we had the challenge to find a new use case for an radar from Infineon. And you see the architecture architecture at the bottom. We have sensors like the radar that is collecting the data, and we built a complete solution where we transfer the data, where we analyze the data, and as a result, the radar system was able to recognize if a man or a woman is going through the door, or if a woman with a bicycle or with two bicycles is going through the door. So we had a good use case that is attractive in these times of Corona, or for the train industry where you have to count the people, for example, who are in the train already. So this is one use case. And the second use case where we see, Thorsten also mentioned the predictive maintenance, which is always often connected to artificial intelligence. And here we had from our partner Global Foundries a use case, the challenge where he has to predict the failure of their valves, which is in part of the critical infrastructure. And when the valves fail or go down, then the whole processing is stopping, and it's very critical for the user. And we also put it, made within 3 months, we built up a team with all the competence, and as a result, we had a solution where with sensors, we can collect the data and we can predict, oh, there is some anomalous noise, or there are some vibrations, and it seems that here we were leading to a disease or an unwanted behavior, and we should have a deeper look. So we see that you can be able to have the use cases, bring the use cases also in the industry, but you have to have the right setup always. Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot, Markus. I have again a question to you, Martin and Thorsten. Martin, you said that AI is used for unbeloved jobs to be done. I also heard that it's also used primarily in the industrial context to make existing employees smarter. Can you say that, or is that true?
It's a good question. If somebody becomes smarter based on AI, I would just say that the people became really, I would say, not needed to do this stupid task. So they get some assistance. And also, if you maybe remember this faxes, this looks like quite nice. But also the AI has really a threshold where it could automatically read everything. And that sends the people from the domain with the domain knowledge who can really read a handwriting, for example, from a doctor, which is really, really hard. Then they jump in. So we will still always need, dependent on the domain, independent of the domain, we will need the experts in their domain, but they become assisted by the AI, by, I would say, AI-based co-workers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will see in the next couple of years a lot of AI applications also in creative industries, and we will. This will lead to an enhancement of and a further explosion of creativity in a couple of fields. Because if you, for instance, if you feed all the novels that have ever been written to a neural network, then this neural network analyzes all novels that have ever been written. Then of course you can build, for instance, a very smart and creative tool for writers. And this you can also do with paintings and with music. And there have been neural networks that have been fed with every work that Johann Sebastian Bach ever wrote. And then they build new types of fugues and sonatas and so on. So this is really a fascinating field, and we will see a lot of innovation there in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I already read a text written by an AI, and they didn't say whether it was a real human being or an AI, and I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating. Okay, this would actually be the perfect switch to the skill part, although we still have a question in our Q&A section. And Swati, is it okay if we answer this question first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So Faraz was asking, do we follow a standard pipeline for machine learning tasks, or does it depend on the task? Also, what libraries or modules do you use very frequently for machine learning tasks? Maybe this is a question for you, Martin, in the first place, I think.
For example, so basically there are some standardized ways to follow. So for example, collecting the data, splitting data sets based on training, evaluation, and benchmarking, so that you can have a statistical background if the model gives the output you like to desire. Then you apply your machine learning technique, which needs to be suitable. Here you need a lot of knowledge by your employees to build this model. And then having this ready, then it goes to the inference time, which is then also, I would say, somehow settled. And but this is very a rough pipeline, and it really depends on the use case. Usually it depends also on the rough structure of the data, what Thorsten started with. So time series is handled in a different way, like, for example, image data. And yeah, regarding the tooling, what we use in our company, so having the old machine learning part, then we work basically with scikit-learn, and for neural networks we work with PyTorch and TensorFlow 2. Really depends on the people who are working with it and what the task is. But in general, we build in our company a framework which abstract all this machine learning tasks from the real customer data, so that we can reuse our software independently of the customer.
Okay, Faraz, I hope this answered your question, and I don't have any more questions in the Q&A section. So if any one of you has another question, this would be the right moment to pose it. Otherwise, I would turn over to Swati for the skill part.
I can take a question if we have some time. I think we still have 3 minutes for the tech part.
Okay, then yeah,
Okay.
go for it. I have one too, actually.
Okay, I mean, this is a following question on what Thorsten mentioned, that AI can also be used in the creative jobs. But there was an article a couple of years ago that the creative director, the job of the creative director was kind of threatened because the sales of Gap, the fashion brand Gap, was going down, and the CEO was unable to decide as to how the creative department should predict the fashion, because Gap is considered to be not a fast fashion brand like H&M or Zara, but it is considered to be a forward-going, fashion brand that predicts the future, of trends in fashion a couple of years in advance. So since the CEO was quite worried about the down spiraling sales, he decided to put AI into function. The article did not clearly mention whether the job was gone for the creative director, but it was like he wanted to replace, or probably he wanted the AI to work along with the creative director. So how do you see that happening in the creative industry, where you have to be a lot of innovative and machine may not be able to think in that direction?
Well, this is really a fascinating question. I can imagine that at the fashion fairs, and if you have like in Milan fashion days, or in Paris, or maybe even Berlin, then I can imagine that the trend scouts are there, and the trend scouts watch high-class fashion, what's going on there, and then they need to copy. They try to copy it and to make it more affordable. I think, at least as far as I know, this is what they do, and of course you can even speed up this process if you have a lot of just pictures, images from new collections. And then you integrate it, and then you compare these images with historic fashion data. with large databases, and then you automatically compute the differences. What is new? What are the new features? What are the new patterns? What are the new colors? What makes the current collection specific in comparison to or what's new in the new collections? And this is maybe something that AI can help with, but this is really experimental. So I can imagine how you could do it if you have a lot of data, but I don't know if it really works, because it's not just about patterns and color and texture and fabrics, but it's even more. It's about brand awareness and the subtleties of branding, and this has actually nothing to do with the fashion itself. So this is fascinating, and I know there are some projects, some scientific projects like Zalando. I think they are working on it on a European level, where they try to apply AI in the fashion industry.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, probably. Yeah, we can hopefully expect the AI to function efficiently along with human. So probably there will be intervention of human as well, but of course it can go hand in hand with the data provided by the AI. Do we have more questions?
Yeah, we have one. Why are the customers mainly in the southern area of Germany? In the eastern part, is there not enough research and development budget?
Yeah, well, this is a historic. For historic reasons, the companies, companies centers are based in the western part of Germany, and so there are very few companies that are actually based and were founded in the eastern part of Germany, because we were a socialist country many years ago, and so this is basically the only reason why the customers are mainly there, like in Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg. I don't know in English what is Baden-Württemberg in English, and also in Düsseldorf and Stuttgart. Well, Stuttgart is Baden-Württemberg. Yeah, this is for historic reasons. We don't have so many companies here.
Okay, and finally, I would like to look in the future. Martin, in preparation for this talk, you said that AI is not really able to think for itself or to learn by itself. But I heard that this might be possible in only a few years' time with a very short answer, or with the question for a very short answer. What do you think? When will AI be able to think and learn for itself?
This is also a tough question. So basically, to be honest, I don't know. But I think this kind of strong AI, we really need some time to evolve, because AI doesn't really know how to evolve. And so we have first moves in this direction with the field of reinforcement learning, which is really pushed by the big tech giants like by Google Brain, for example. And there is quite some efforts, but I would say it would last at least 1 decade.
Okay. Thorsten, what do you think? And maybe also Markus.
Okay, so, well, usually AI is divided into narrow AI and broad AI. And narrow AI is what we actually see today. And that means you automate very well-defined narrow use cases, like, for instance, understanding or extracting terminology from text. This is a very focused, well-defined task. But broad AI and thinking about thinking and abstracting and combining cognitive functions that like humans do, this is really out of sight. So we won't see really human-like thinking machines in the next decade, but we will see tremendous progress in very specific, well-defined use cases. But thinking machines that act like humans and that know that can use and apply irony and sarcasm and humor. This is really hard to do with AI, and so this is more in the field of science fiction still.
Okay.
Science fiction is also the word that came into my mind, and it's kind of rocket science. Of course, we have a strong technology industry that are focusing on this AI topic and try to push it, to improve it. But I think everyone nowadays in the situation knows we have many video conferences, and we are reducing the personal social contacts, and everyone sees what is missing and what cannot be transferred via the internet, or how important it's the emotional level and the feeling from inside your heart, and it's really hard to imagine that all these complex sensors that the human being has will be combined in a machine, and the machine can think about itself. But yeah, never say no. It maybe will be here sometime, but it's really hard to imagine, I think.
Okay.
Maybe one last word. In psychology, in psychological research, you see that you need your body as a human being. You need your body to really think, embodied cognition and stuff like that. So and the machine doesn't have a body. So there are practical limits to really emulating what a human does.
Not up to now, maybe.
Up to now, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, as we are running a bit late, we have to turn over to the skill part, but maybe this progress of AI is a perfect bridge to you, Swati, and I'll now pass over to you and your skill part questions.
Thank you so much, Yudia. And yeah, probably we have to wait many more years, maybe a decade or more than that, for AI to function as efficiently as a human does. So moving on to the skill part of the discussion, my first question is, I will take one of the questions which we have seen most of the time from our talent community, that there are many talents who want to transition from their current field. They want to move to AI or machine learning or data science, and they use various digital content provided by Coursera or Udacity and others to learn and build their knowledge and skill set. But they still do not see a clear path in terms of employability. There are not many internship or work student opportunities for such kind of students because the companies say that you do not have the experience or you do not come from the right background. What are your comments or what are your thoughts on that? I mean, how is it possible? How can these talents make themselves efficient if they want to switch industry from, let's say, psychology to data science or IT to computer, IT to ML, machine learning?
Maybe I can start.
Yes.
Shortly.
Yep.
I think what is really a big issue in the mindset of some graduates right now is that machine learning and AI is the only thing you should work on right now because it's that much hyped. But we see it also if we make statistics on our applicants, in which fields they like to work. I would say around about 60–70% want to do machine learning. Cool. But what many people forget is that machine learning is still computer science. And if you want to do proper machine learning, you have to have foundations in software engineering, how to manage code and so on. And without having proper machine learning people, software engineers in the team, you couldn't even deploy a well-trained model integrated in the customer project. So I just want to emphasize it's not only machine learning what is required right now. And yeah, what to do? Yeah, yes, I support this thesis that it's not easy to get into practical topics, but I think to understand and to learn is really important. And here you can do the best of doing something practical. So there are a lot of challenges outside, looking at Kaggle, for example, but also in different conferences. There are challenges where you can train on your own to learn how others doing, etc. Being practical is more important than just reading papers or looking at slides.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that most of the applicants right now, also in our case, 60–70% want to really work in artificial intelligence, machine learning, NLP. And as Martin said, most of them are absolutely fascinated, which I can perfectly understand, by the potential that AI has. But if you want to work in a software company, you really need skills in software engineering and also sometimes data engineering. So what you can do and what you should do in order to be prepared is, first of all, get a sound introduction to AI, of course. And there are some basic books. Read, like for instance, Russell Norvig, Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach. This is one of the classics, and which covers many fields of AI. And then you have a broad overview. You're not an expert, but you have a broad overview. Russell Norvig, a classic. Then you should really have a sound basis in statistics, mathematical statistics, because this is what often, which isn't really taught in computer science courses, but it really helps a lot that you can interpret the results of machine learning models and how robust they are, and so on. And well, and of course, you should really be able to, well, at least do what a computer science student is able to after, let's say, 2 years of studies. At least a basic understanding of algorithms and data structures, databases, software engineering, and data management. This is what you really need in a day-to-day basis in a software company. But this is possible. We have some members in our team who studied, for instance, mathematics or chemistry or economics, and they managed to really build up this knowledge. And they are very motivated, but there are very few who really do this because it's quite hard. But then you benefit from it, definitely.
Okay, so there is a possibility to move from, let's say, economics, to data science, and maybe then to AI. So the possibility is not closed.
I can really support this. So in our team, we have people from physics. I see also right now the question here, which finished the PhD. So we have 3 people there. We have from Mars, Raketenantriebstechnik, so rocket science people here, and so on. And if we hire someone, we have to have this team fit, but then we have a look, and at least you have to be good at coding or from the machine learning perspective. And one of both you can learn, you can converge to both. Something needs to be good, some understanding, and then you can learn and participate in the team and build up your knowledge and expertise.
Okay, and they can also build up the expertise apart from taking the online courses, the digital content by, apart from the digital content, they can also take it, let's say, from the hand-on experience that you mentioned, participating in challenges and then learning it in the process.
Yes.
Interesting. I have another question, which is related to this. So you mentioned students from physics field, economics, statistics, IT, I mean, software engineer, computer science, they are easily, they can, move to the data science. But is there any other field? For example, Torsten mentioned one of the days that people from, students from electrical engineering can also see a future in big data and AI. Torsten, would you like to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so if you want to work in AI or in machine learning, then you of course should have a sound mathematical foundation. And I think this question can be answered with looking for domains that offer such a mathematical foundation. And this is, of course, mathematics itself. This is physics. And of course, all domains in engineering, because they have a lot of quite hard engineering mathematics. Chemistry, did I mention physics? Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, economics, because there is specialization in economics or in business administration, in statistics and econometrics, which is also quite helpful. And also psychology, because psychology or even sociologists are also using a lot of multivariate statistics that can be very helpful to be a foundation for machine learning, because many machine learning models are also using quite comparable mathematical structures. So there are actually a lot of domains where you can start, and then what you can take as a platform, really then to switch to machine learning and AI.
Okay, interesting. However, that being said, I would say that we still need graduates from English literature or other creative fields, so that the balance is always maintained, and we do not have only software engineers or machine learning or data scientists around us. I have another quick question, which is to both of you. You mentioned that the working professionals or the students who have graduated a couple of years ago, they can always upskill themselves, in AI and machine learning by some of the suggestions that you have mentioned. What are the tactics, however, the company should apply in order to level up their broad-based current workforce and acquiring AI capability if it aims to work with this technology in future? Does Avantgarde Labs or AI4BD have any internal practices? Do they provide in-house training, or are there any practices that they do on a regular basis to improve and upskill their talents on AI and machine learning?
Martin, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the domain the company is in. So I would say for IT companies, they should definitely check if there are use cases with their products or projects where AI can level up the products. And here you would say, okay, basically you need at least maybe three people working in the Scrum team, and then starting step by step to understand what benefit we can gain with which technologies. And that's also the way we work. So in our company, we have research projects to come into new fields, which helps us a lot to get some funding. But also we do some ongoing investigations regarding the state of the art. So it's quite challenging because the state of the art is changing fastly. And then we integrate some continuous testing of some papers for our approaches, and then share the knowledge in our team, doing some innovation meetings and so on. This is quite helpful. I would say for non-IT companies, it's really questionable how big they are and what they want to achieve if they should invest in AI on their own, because you need people for data analysis, for machine learning, people who know how to code, that you can deploy the models. You need DevOps people. So you need a lot of people just working maybe on one of the use cases. So it may be better to work with external companies who have for a use case project skills or product. But what I really want to recommend that if you work on as an innovation manager or in a C-level, that you really should have some general skills about the possibility AI has in order to make it possible to understand which business value you can gain from, and then maybe to adjust the vision and mission of your own company.
Okay, I can also add some words for this. We as Smart Systems Hub, I mentioned our small projects that last from 3 or 4 days, hackathons or thinkathons, as we call it, to 3 months development projects where we built an MVP and a minimal viable product for our challenge owners and customers, and there's very often an AI part of it. So this is an option to get some experience in real projects. It's kind of an internship that we offer, and you can see also the current ones on our website, smartsystemshub.de. And this might be one, because I saw the question, one option to get some real life experience, to keep up to date, to get experience with the really needs of the customers, and also with the practical use of the current libraries or AI models. And this is one option to stay up to date and to get practical knowledge, besides of course the importance of the theoretical background.
Yeah, I think
yeah, please go ahead.
It's a mix of really providing the environment in the company to letting people grow, and to giving them what they need to grow. And this is, of course, one aspect, of course, are the types of projects that you can offer. And this is dependent on what kinds of customers you have. And this is one aspect. And of course, what kinds of well, internal and external training you offer. For instance, every employee in our team has a budget of at least 2,000 euros a year for individual training and workshops and conference visits and so on. And also we have regular show and tell sessions where people show what they did in their projects in the last couple of months. And well, this is quite clear, but the most important thing is, I think, on an everyday basis, really the informal communication in our messengers, in our channels, where people exchange smart ideas and links to blog articles and so on. And this is a quite informal type of education, but it's always a mix of different things. And one of the most important things also is the individual motivation of an individual person. So if you really want it, then you will invest your time, and not only your time at work, but also your spare time in educating yourself. And this is a very important aspect of it.
So spending weekends not with friends, but with books on AI and big data.
It can be friends who also love AI, and so you can
yeah, we can find people who could share the same knowledge and discuss. Yeah, true. I have 2 questions. I mean, I have a couple of questions from the audience, one of which is, I'll quickly take it because we are running out of time. How open is the industry to accepting PhD graduates from physics background and have been working with programming, physics data analysis for their PhD? This is a question from Abhishek.
Yeah, as mentioned, we are open, I would say.
Okay. And Torsten?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in principle, companies are definitely open to physicists and engineers and so on. But the thing is that what usually, as we already discussed today, what you usually lacks is the software engineering part. Physicists are extremely good in applying mathematics to real world problems. Maybe they are better than scientists from any other domains. I love physicists, I have to admit. And what often what they often miss or what lacks is the basics are the basics in computer science. But you can learn these things, but you need some time. You
Sure.
need to invest some time, but then definitely.
Okay. I have another question. It's common for bachelor and master graduates to get internship opportunities, but there is a possibility for internship for PhD graduates to gain experience. Can PhD graduates apply for internship and gain experience in AI and machine learning? Is it possible for them to get internship in industry if they are PhD students or PhD graduates?
So I can only speak for us, and yeah, it's possible. So maybe not only for a month. So I would say maybe 3 months that we have enough time to get into the topic and into the company, what is required, and then to work on a dedicated topic. But yes, it's possible.
Okay. And there's this one more question from Faraz. I think we answered it, but I'll quickly read it. What skills do you expect for recent graduates? Should we focus on the standard libraries like Skitic, Learn, and projects, or do we focus more on the theoretical ML like research papers? I think Marcus touched upon that part when he mentioned, but would you like to add anything to that?
I think the theory is always the basic, and then you should be try to get the practical experience, and you should do it, of course, with the latest algorithms and libraries, and where you can find it always on at companies or in real life projects where use cases are worked on, are fulfilled, and this is a good way, starting with an internship, for example, to getting to know companies, their use cases, and which setups they use. And as we see, it's all often, of course, you have standard libraries, but every technical setup is built up from scratch for new, how it is the best setup for the use case. And we are sitting together with the experts, with the customers, with some business development and the tech experts, and we try to find the best solution, the best architecture. And I think this is, being part of this project is always good for your knowledge, good for your feeling, and also for your, to look positive into the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcus. Since we are running out of time, we are way ahead of time. We will unfortunately have to wind up the second part of the discussion. But before ending this discussion or this tea talk, I would like to ask our three experts one last key takeaway for the students or working professionals in this field and the companies that wish to work in this technology in future. Could you just share one key takeaway, probably in one sentence, for both the companies as well as the students? Martin, probably we can go ahead with you.
Be curious and strive for what you think of, you like to learn.
This is for the students, and for the companies?
Really think about if it's correct to do AI on your own or with a partner.
Okay, fair enough. Torsten?
Yeah, well, to the students, so no matter what your actually position is or what you studied, you really can work in AI if you are fascinated by AI, but you really have to invest a bit of time and a bit of your passion, and do some hard work. and then you will have a fascinating position someday. And well, to the companies, well, I think some companies are not very much focused on the value that AI actually creates, but they jump onto the hype of AI. And for companies, I would say they should really focus on where is the value, and they should be clear about what value can AI create in their specific domain.
Okay, and Marcus?
Yes, it's the same direction for the companies. I think I can give the advice: think on your use case and first, and then think about how it might be useful to solve it, and yeah, maybe try small steps. Try don't be afraid. And don't be afraid is also the advice for the students. Try to follow your interests, and yeah, don't follow only some buzzword, but hear on yourself. And if you think it's your passion and you want to try out, then there are many ways to step into.
Absolutely. So for students, passion and motivation and ambition to work in this field, and for companies, do not join the bandwagon of AI. If every company is, trying to adopt the technology, see your business needs, see if in case it match with your, company needs, and then decide whether you should integrate this technology within your business processes. On that note, I would like to end the session. Thank you so much for your time. Before we leave, I would quickly request you to take this feedback form, to take this feedback survey, probably because your feedback on our content and the structure of the program and on the overall webinar will help us, bring you forth next time another topic in a very interesting manner, and of course with two experts, from two different companies. So, and one from the knowledge partner, of course. So on that note, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are going to see you next time in the next topic. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah.